Welcome back, everybody, to another shocking, enthralling episode of Lockdown 23 and 1. That's right, enthralling and shocking it is. Today we're going to witness an inmate get sentenced for killing his own cellmate. And I already covered this story about a year ago, and I told y'all if there's any updates, I'll be sure to bring them your way, and this is definitely one of them. It's not often that you get to see the inmate get sentenced for killing his cellmate. I mean, there's very few videos out there. So before we get into the courtroom, I'm going to break down a little bit more of the situation, but first, as always, if you're new to the channel and enjoy all things lockup and crime related, then this is absolutely where you need to be. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell before you leave, and check out my beautifully assorted playlist with many more videos for you to start watching today. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to break down a little bit of the situation before we get into the courtroom and witness Mr. Jackson Vogel here get sentenced for the hate crime murder of his cellmate, Micah Loreno, at the Green Bay Correctional Institution. But Vogel here was already serving a 20-year sentence for a 2016 attempted homicide of his mother, whom he stabbed and choked at the age of 16. Fast forward a few years, he's about to get a new cellmate, Micah Loreno. Loreno had been found guilty of taking and driving a vehicle without consent and as a party to a crime for substantial battery intending bodily harm, robbery with the use of force, and first-degree recklessly endangering safety. He was sentenced to 3 years. He had 18 months left to do when he stepped into the cell with Mr. Vogel. He was a short-timer, living with someone that's doing decades. How does that happen? Well, it's because he had violent crimes. Unfortunately, more times than none when it comes down to classification, violent offenders all get bottled up together. Like me, I was a short-timer, but I stabbed someone, so, they put me into Gladiator Dome. But just hours after going into the cell with Mr. Vogel, Loreno gets strangled to death. And it matches Vogel's MO. I mean, he tried to strangle his own mother as well. But a jury found Vogel guilty for killing his cellmate, not to mention it was a hate crime as well, which is going to amplify his sentencing to the max. You do not want to go in a courtroom with one of those. But this is the thing, before his cellmate ever stepped foot into the cell, Vogel had been issued multiple conduct reports dated back from March 5th to 6th of 2024 for the language used in inmate complaints and interview requests. That's pieces of paper that you write to the staff to try to get things done. You got to issue a complaint, you put on the form, send it in, they're supposed to reply back to you. But this is the type of stuff he was writing on these forms. Obscene, profane, abusive, and threatening language. Not to mention some swastika symbols. According to the report, Vogel wrote, "You all need and deserve death. Hail Hitler," and mentioned the Aryan Brotherhood and white power. Keep in mind, this is before he got his new cellmate, Loreno. This is a prime example of how short-timers can get killed by someone doing decades in prison, or how they get housed with them. Let this be a rude awakening for anybody who want to commit some kind of violent crime. It doesn't matter. If it's a felony and you get sentenced to prison, man, you're going to be going around with some big dogs, violent ones. But now that you got a little more intel on the situation, and of course, my condolences once again goes out to the family and friends of Mr. Loreno. Very sad situation. He was due to be home in just 18 months. You never know what could happen in prison, though. So if you got loved ones in there, try to keep them close. But like I said, the jury found him guilty for the killing of his cellmate. Let's jump into the courtroom and witness what the judge has in store. Alright, so we're going to hear from Mr. Vogel first. Speak to the judge before he gets sentenced.
Jackson Paul Vogel, under the law, you have an absolute right to address me now concerning any matter on your mind or heart, as it becomes my duty shortly to pass judgment upon you and to sentence you under the law. Is there anything you'd like to tell me, Mr. Vogel?
I'm over here shivering in my shower shoes. That judge is absolutely terrifying me. Bobby, go ahead and open up the 2026 canisters. Get them primed and ready. This guy's going straight to Smokeville. I'm still shaking a little bit.
I may not show remorse. I may not be able to understand emotion. I may not be able to understand remorse itself. It doesn't mean a person cannot be sorry for what they did at any point in time. Because I am sorry. But on the other hand, I don't believe in holding on to the past. That is something that we cannot change.
Keep in mind, this guy tried to strangle his own mother and ended up killing his cellie the same type of way. And listening to him speak right now, this guy is a maniac. These are the type of individuals you could be housed with in prison, man, if you decide to take that path.
But on the other hand, I don't believe in holding on to the past. That is something that we cannot change. The past is something that I have experience in holding on to. It's hate that's the poison. Hate that consumes everything. And that is something that I've held on to my entire life. To some great, horrible things that I've done, said. That doesn't mean that I'm not sorry for what I've done. That doesn't mean that I don't have a sliver of regret. Because I'm not showing remorse, because I don't have emotion, it's not something I can understand. I can't rack my brain to understand it, but I am still sorry for what I've done. That's all.
Mr. Vogel, at 16, you were sent into the Wisconsin State Correctional System. 8 years later, you commit a crime in which an anonymous human being to whom you had no real relationship is placed with you in a cell, and in a very short order, you process the decision to kill him. You kill him in an opportunity where you basically garrote him with a clothesline. Your testimony is, in your statement, you put your knee up against him and then you pulled him back till he went limp. Till you literally squeezed the life out of him. And in your initial statement to the police, what's so frightening is you were excited about that. I believe you're a killing machine. I believe that after 8 years in the state prison system, there's been no change. And therefore, I have no ability to have an expectation that you will ever change. That you will either be a risk to every human being, to every guard, to every nurse, to every inmate, to anybody you are exposed to at any given time. You could flip a switch. They meet all the boxes. They're a human being. They are whatever. They are whatever. I'm bored. So it's the sentence of the court and the judgment of the law that you be confined in the Wisconsin State Prison for the rest of your natural life. I find that you are not to be eligible for extended supervision. I will order that you make restitution in the sum of $20,000.
Welcome to Smokeville, my friend. I mean, he was already there. He don't care. He's gonna get a nice little cell to himself now, if I were to guess. That might have been the mission statement from the beginning. You think old Wisconsin's gonna risk putting someone else in there with them, get another lawsuit or something come their way? If I were to guess, no way. Maybe get another cellie in the next 20 years with good behavior or something. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A little update on the story as promised. Sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. And I completely agree with this judge. This guy at any given time could flip a switch and become that killing machine once again. The whole time homeboy was speaking to the judge, giving an apology in his weird kind of way, Bobby was whispering maniac in my ear. Could barely concentrate, but yeah, that's what he is. Don't go to prison, man, and you ain't got to be housed or sleep in a cell with one of these type of individuals. But I gotta go prepare some more and watch the radars. I don't know if we're gonna get a bunch of snow over here in East Tennessee or a blanket of ice. Either one of them out here is gonna be lethal. But as always, until the next time, y'all be easy, be safe, and more importantly than anything, stay free.